Playground of Liverpool, Wirral and the northwest, situated on the northern tip of the Wirral Peninsula in Liverpool Bay. Is this how you remember it? Long, hot summers with thousands of people enjoying themselves. So, how did it all begin? Joy Hockey is a local historian with a boundless knowledge of New Brighton, past and present. Joy, am I right in believing that it started out as a watering place for the landed gentry?
Yes, you're quite right. It was started by James Atherton in about 1832. He lived in Everton, and he could see this corner of the Wirral from his house where he lived, and he decided he would come over and buy 170 acres of sandhills from William Penkert, who was Lord of the Manor and owned the area, and he set about laying out the area, and he went to a firm of architects in Dale Street, and he had plans drawn up, and the road layout that is shown on these plans is pretty well much the same as we've got today. And he also produced a prospectus, and in the prospectus he said he was going to set out this fashionable watering spa, and he was going to provide a pier, and he was going to provide a church, assembly rooms, a hotel, and he was offering sites for villas. And he also said that the whole of the development was going to cost about £12,000, so he was offering shares of £100 each. And he went on to extol the virtues of the place, that we have fantastic river views, views across the river and views across the Rock Channel where the main shipping was coming in those days. And we had a good beach with clean, hard sand free of mud, gravel and pebbles. And we had pure air, and the whole area was laid out with detached villas. They went all the way up Rowson Street and in the area beyond Victoria Road. And we do have some of the villas existing to this day from the original plan, and these are the ones along the seafront facing onto King's Parade. And we did have one or two, though they've been demolished, up in Montpelier Crescent. We've only got 3 left in Montpelier Crescent, but the idea was that they were going to go all the way up the hill from the promenade right up to Montpelier Crescent itself. But that really never happened. It never got off the ground. And I really think it was because, in one way, James Atherton died in 1838, so he never really lived to see completion of any of his plans. So the villas were very important to the New Brighton plan. The assembly rooms played an important part because, in a way, it was a bit like a community centre, because in the assembly rooms they had reading rooms. You could go and read the latest newspaper. They had a billiard room, they had a ballroom, and it was a meeting place where the gentry could really go and meet each other. It was a very elegant building. It was right next to the Victoria Hotel. Some of the features are still there, but it really is enveloped within the Hotel Victoria. We had steam arrive in the Mersey in 1817, so they had these little sort of steam ferry boats which plied between Liverpool and New Brighton on an hourly basis. It was quite a regular sailing, and so the pier was initially for the people who lived here building the villas. In 1861, the pier was taken over by the New Brighton Pier Company, and they had plans drawn up for a new pier by Eugenius Birch, and his name was the name in piers, the same as Brunel is for bridges. He was for piers. And currently, at the same time, the council also built a pier alongside to get passengers down to the refurbished ferry. So you get 2 piers alongside, the ferry pier and the promenade pier. But the promenade pier was privately owned. It was nothing to do with the council. And this state of affairs stayed like that until 1928, when the local authority bought the pier. So they also did a lot of repairs and a lot of modernisation. And they got rid of a lot of the cast-down character. It was really a very pretty pier, and I would say it was as pretty as Brighton Pier, but this was New Brighton Pier. By the 1860s, the character of New Brighton started to change, and the reasons for this was, first of all, due to the Bank Holiday Act of 1871. In the case of Liverpool in particular, the living conditions became absolutely horrendous. But at the weekends, they just wanted to get away from their awful surroundings. And, of course, not working on a Sunday, being the day of rest, they would take the ferry, and the easiest and most exciting place was to come to New Brighton. And this is how you started the day trippers coming. And when this happened, the nobility and the gentry in New Brighton packed their bags and went to North Wales. And they came in their crowds came. And the big thing, when you look at old photographs of New Brighton, is the astounding fact that they were all in their Sunday best. And they were all wore hats. And you got straw hats, you got bonnets, you got flat caps, you got hats with feathers and hats with fruit. And they had come for the day out, and they were determined to enjoy themselves. Everything happened on the shore. There were hawkers, minstrels, concertina players, hymn singers, welcome mussel stalls, photographers, rowing boats, roundabouts, paddling and swimming. And we mustn't forget swimming, because with swimming you associate bathing machines. And the local authority introduced bathing bylaws, and from Seacombe round to the bottom of Waterloo Road they divided up the shore for men, women, men, women, men, women, because they were really peeved about anybody prying or peeping. And they introduced fines, and if people got too near where the ladies were in the bathing machine stepping out into the water, they fined them, and likewise if any boats came too near, they fined them again.
What's the story of the tower?
Yes, the tower came and went. The tower was, the tower and the grounds, because the grounds are important, was built by a syndicate of businessmen. So they built the big brick building, which formed the base for the tower, which was built actually by the same engineers who built Blackpool Tower, Maxwell and Tuke, which is significant really, because when it was pulled down a lot of people said that it was dangerous and unsafe, but you can't imagine a firm who built Blackpool Tower doing a rotten job at New Brighton, because we've still got Blackpool Tower.
So when was it taken down?
It was taken down, the tower, the steel tower was taken down between 1919 and 1921, after the First World War. And don't believe what people tell you when they said it was taken down because it was unsafe. That wasn't true, because it was taken down by the mortgagees of the time to be able to realise assets, and they took it down to be able to sell the steelwork, not for guns and bullets, which they had needed in the First World War, but to build ships, because we'd got a loss of shipping in the war itself. The Tower Grounds complex, you paid sixpence to go in and you could be there all day, and there was a lot going in the grounds, and they had 5 bands or 5 pieces of music, like including an orchestra for a start. They had a brass band on a plateau where you could go dancing. They had a ladies' Hungarian band, they had a concertina band, and they had a Parisian band, and they also had a band in the Tower Ballroom. And you get people coming like Florrie Ford, Vesta Tilley, Dan Leno, Harry Lauder, and all the other famous names in variety.
So who had the higher tower, Blackpool or New Brighton?
New Brighton had the higher tower. It was higher than Blackpool by nearly 50 feet.
The ballroom continued for many years after that, didn't it?
It did.